Well, greetings and welcome to the Be the Ultimate Assistant podcast with Bonnie and Vickie. Hello there, I'm Vickie Sokol-Evans.
And I am BonnieLow-Kramen.
Hello, Bonnie.
Hello, Vickie.
Hey, welcome back. That's our second episode.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe it. I'm so excited. We've been looking forward to this all week.
Same here, same here. We've got a great guest. And before we talk about what we have brewing today, do we want to kind of recap what happened on our pilot episode? And we've posted it out there, and we got some subscribers.
Yeah, well, it seemed like we posted it for 5 minutes, and then we had subscribers and likes and comments, and what that told us clearly is that assistants all over the world are eager to talk about stuff.
Yeah, and we've already got questions from people and topic ideas, so keep those coming. Be sure to visit BeTheUltimateAssistant.com and click on the podcast tab and submit your topic ideas and guest ideas. And if you'd like to be a guest, we'd love to consider that. So let's get going on our second episode. Bonnie, what do we have going today?
Well, the theme for today is global trends for assistants, and we are so fortunate because not only do we have our friend as a guest on the show today, but we have the consummate leader in the world to talk about this subject, who is Lucy Brazier. Lucy is from the UK, but assistants all around the world are so fortunate to have Lucy as their advocate. That never before have the world's assistants been connected in such a powerful way, and she is the cause of that. So let's get to it, Vic.
Great. I'm so excited. I love Lucy. I love her accent. So I'm excited to have a Brit on the podcast today, on today's episode. So yeah, let me just read a few things from her bio. Is extensive, by the way, but I picked out my favorite things from it specific to our topic today. So Lucy Brazier is the CEO of Marcham Publishing, and they publish Executive Secretary magazine, the magazine that both Bonnie and I write for, and we read. We love it. Lucy runs a LinkedIn group for assistants, and get this, it currently has over 34,000 international members who share information, network, and learn from each other. She also launched Admin Chat in January of 2012. It's a free training session each week presented on Twitter, and it's hosted by a different world-class trainer. So that's 48 hours of training per year, and it's now almost up to 100 hours of training, and it has over 2,000 attendees a week. It's such a great place for assistants to get that, just block out 1 hour a week to get that additional training from trainers all over the world. She also hosts Executive Secretary Live, which is a major conference in London and Dubai. It's an amazing conference that I hope that you all kind of check out at executivesecretarylive.com. As Bonnie mentioned, she's a huge advocate for assistants all around the world and for professional training. She herself attends training. She attended our Be the Ultimate Assistant workshop, I think a couple of times maybe, and so she really walks the walk, and she identifies the top trainers all over the world. So I would love to introduce Lucy. Lucy, welcome to our second episode of the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Vickie and Bonnie. It's an absolute joy to be here.
Yay, we're so excited. Before Bonnie starts in with a couple of questions for you, can we clarify a little bit the various titles that you see for this role? In the U.S., we hear executive assistant, administrative assistant, personal assistant, things like that. Could you kind of explain a little bit about the various titles that you see in your travels?
Absolutely. I think that's a really good thing to clear up quite early on, actually, Vickie, because in the UK, a PA is very similar to an admin assistant in the States.
Would you say is a PA? A
personal assistant. Whereas I know in the States, a PA is usually more of a celebrity assistant or somebody who looks after somebody who is famous or high-powered. What I tend to find is that in different places in the world, there are many, many different titles. I think we've come across 162 of them so far.
Oh my gosh, really? 162 titles for this one position, for this role?
Yeah. I think my favorite is Chief Ninja, which I think is that over there.
And I heard one this week that I like a lot. For a CEO, they call themselves a CEA, a Chief Executive Assistant.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I love that too. It's quite interesting because for us, we sometimes get emails through for people saying, why are you Executive Secretary? That's really, really old as a title. But actually in Asia and in the Middle East and in a lot of the other countries around the world, it's still secretary as opposed to assistant. It tends to be in the UK and in the States where assistant is more prevalent. So when we were looking at being a global title, we decided we had to go for something that was going to work right the way across the board.
And that's for your magazine, Executive Secretary Magazine.
Yeah, absolutely.
So don't you have a clear definition of the word secretary versus assistant?
Yes. Well, a secretary means keeper of secrets, basically. And it used to be a male role, obviously, until the war came along and then the women came and took over. And assistant, I think, came in probably about 15 to 20 years ago, mainly because they were trying to change slightly the way that secretaries were perceived. And in a way, I think it's become a problem in its own right, because to be an assistant suggests that they're assisting and not doing. And so many of them are doing. It's so important to make sure that within their companies, the companies actually understand what they do and understand they are business people in their own right. They're not just there as a support.
Right. Mm-hmm. So let's jump in, shall we?
I think we should, yeah.
So everyone knows that you're based in England, Lucy, but how many countries have you been in this last 12 months about?
I spoke at 173 events in 26 countries, so just a few.
Yeah, I mean, just a crazy amount of traveling. And therefore, clearly you are an authority on what's going on around the world. What are the big trends that you're seeing? So many assistants talk to me about, they're very siloed. They're in their companies, even if they're in a giant company, but they still feel alone. They don't have they wonder, is this challenge just happening for me? So they need you to tell them what's happening. What's the global perspective? What's going on?
Oh, my word. Well, the first thing is that all the issues for assistants, no matter where they are in the world, are pretty much the same. And that feeling of being siloed and feeling alone and not being quite sure what the role is and where it's headed and not being sure what your position is within the company is absolutely the same right the way across the world.
And
I see that too. We hear again and again when we get feedback, Having said that, I don't think there's ever been a more exciting time to be an assistant. And the main reason for that, as far as I'm concerned, is because of the recession. And when the recession hit, now 6 years ago, and they made that whole level of middle management redundant, they asked the assistants to step up and to take on those roles, which was a really huge opportunity for the assistants. And having said that, they didn't give any of them any more pay, and neither did they give them training. So you suddenly have this group of people all over the world. And by the way, it's a fifth of the world's working population that works in admin. So we're not talking a small group of people to be misunderstood here. You have this whole group of people who were meant to be temporarily taking over these roles and were quite happy to do it for a little period of time, who suddenly find themselves in a position where this is now permanent. And 6 years in, they are, the ASAP last year did that big piece of research, which I'm sure you will have seen, which proves that they are the new middle management. They are doing HR, PR, marketing, bits of finance. And it's really quite interesting because what you find is that you talk to assistants all over the world and they say, well, I am still doing my administrative stuff, but actually I'm doing project management as well, so kind of half and half. Or, I've taken on more and more of the accounting side of things. So what we're tending to find is that they specialize in one area and then they're doing their admin stuff alongside it. But the great thing about that is that we now have an opportunity to talk to the businesses about the fact that they have stepped up and to look at what the job descriptions are and to look at what the career progression is. And I think that's a huge issue right now.
Right.
Making sure.
I totally would agree with you with that. And I'd love to piggyback on what you just said about, initially there was no more money for all this increased responsibility, but I think that's changing. And so my next question is about what's exciting you, and would I be correct that part of what's exciting in the world today is that assistants are now getting more money? Would that be true?
I think it's moving that way, but I think the assistants need to speak up, and I think they're very bad at it.
Yes.
For whatever reason, they tend to think that they are the person in the office that doesn't bring in any money. So whether that's asking for a pay rise or whether that's asking for training, they don't want to do it. And that is really frustrating for them. But also, the businesses obviously aren't going to offer money on a plate, whether it's for training or for extra salaries. You need to go and ask for it, you know. And actually, it's a total misnomer that they aren't bringing money in. You sit and do the math, you know. If they're supporting a CEO or a high-powered director within the company, you look at what their salary is, and then you look at the amount of hours they save them a week, and do the sum. Work out how much money you're worth to the company a week and how much that equates to a year. That's what you give to the bottom line as an assistant. So, you know, should never be scared to be going and asking for things. And I think that, you know, even with the magazine, we say, you know, they come and they say to me, or an email or whatever, oh, we've seen a copy of your magazine, we'd so love to do it, but we know our business wouldn't do it. You know, we'd love to keep looking at your website, and, you know. And then when you actually give them a letter and say, well, take it and go and ask, they come back and they say, oh, they said yes.
Yes.
And they're so surprised. Well, of course they do, because there's a proper business case.
Well,
Lucy,
there isn't a...
I'm so sorry, Lucy. Can you have the copy of the letter that we can provide to our listeners if they are interested in that?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Okay,
absolutely.
Great.
But, thank you.
Yeah. The letter is about making the return on investment case to your manager.
Actually, not even just for us, you know. It's a template that you can use for whatever training you're wanting to go on, which I think is the most important thing. It's, you know, looking at what's out there, looking at what suits you. And actually, that whole issue we were talking about right at the beginning about feeling alone and siloed and that whole thing, the thing we hear more than anything else when we talk to people who have attended events or networking all over the world is that they suddenly go, oh, thank God there are other people out there that have the same issues as I do. It's so important.
And you, I'm sorry to interrupt again, Bonnie. I'm just thinking, like, all these resources. You, in the back of Executive Secretary magazine, don't you list out all the different conferences, and you have a list of all the training around the world, right?
Yeah. In the back of the magazine, there are lists of all the international conferences and the national conferences. But if you go to the website at executivesecretary.com, there is a page which is of events, and any trainer anywhere in the world can upload for free their events, as can people who are doing networking events, as can people who are doing stuff internally, whatever it happens to be. So as a result of that, at the moment, we have over 1,000 events up there for assistants. And you can search by your town, you can search by the trainer, you can search by the topic. You know, it's a free resource for anybody out there who's an assistant to use to find out what's going on. You know, quite a lot of that training out there and that networking stuff is free as well. It doesn't necessarily, if your company won't pay for it, needs to be paid for training. And having said that, you know, there are some absolutely awesome trainers out there who will get you guys included, obviously. Mm-hmm. But I have to say, I sat in on their training, you guys out there listening, and it's seriously, seriously good. But, you get what you pay for on the whole.
Indeed, indeed. It makes me a little crazy when I hear assistants say, well, I obviously can't go. If my manager isn't going to pay for it, if my company's not going to invest in this, then I can't go. And I say back, don't let money stop you. You know, if assistants don't want to take the responsibility to make the investment in themselves, who's going to? And what I'm seeing happening is, when they ask, 9 times out of 10, the managers say yes. And when they say no, they need to go back again and negotiate it, compromise. I'll pay for half if you pay for half. I've heard that happening. They'll pay for the registration if the company will, if they'll pay for housing or whatever. Yes. There's all kinds of ways. It's about thinking out of the box, thinking creatively, and don't let money stop you from getting the training that you absolutely need in this workplace of 2015.
Totally. And the other thing I would say is that, you know, if you ask and they say no, you're in no worse position than you are in the beginning. Because, well, actually, you're in a better position because they know you're committed to your own personal development, even if they do say no. But, you know, by going and by not asking, you're definitely not going to get. You might as well try. It's,
Absolutely. Well, Lucy, you've been brilliant about providing resources for assistants. As you and Vickie and I, we are on that same page when it comes to, providing, a buffet of training and options, learning options for assistants. The conference that you've created, Executive Secretary Live, is a brilliant resource in and of itself. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Oh, Executive Secretary Live. Well, it came out of I've been to so many events, and no event is a bad event, by the way. But we have our whole ethos right from the beginning was the fact that if what we're saying is that an assistant has different skill sets to their executive, but it's no less important. If you're a proper strategic business partner, then there are things that you're absolutely awesome at which they can't do for toffee. So putting the two of you together is an absolutely fantastic partnership. So if what we're saying is you're both equals, just different, then if we were putting on an event, it couldn't afford to be anything less than as good as something that your executive would go on. So that's where we came at it from. So, while I'm traveling the world and I'm doing my 26 countries, I tend to choose the top 8 people in the world that year that I think are the best, and then bring them to London, and then we tour it. So it's gone on to the people we had for the first year, including you and Vickie, obviously. Then went to Dubai, which was a blast, wasn't it, ladies?
Yeah.
In November.
So much fun, yes.
Yeah, really great. And then we're off to South Africa in 2016. So, we are going to be touring the world with this. And every year there's a new one goes into London, and we go out and we travel it all over the place. But it's just, to me, it's about treating the assistants to the kind of weekend that they deserve, really. It's a Friday and a Saturday. And talking about negotiating, part of the reason we did that was because we thought, well, then it's easy to say to the boss, well, look, give me a day off, but actually I'm taking a day of my own time as well.
Right.
Into this. So,
and what's the structure? So can you explain how Friday is set up and then Saturday is set up?
Okay, so Friday is always workshops, so it's 2 half days. So you get really, really in-depth training on the Friday of 2 half days. So I think London this year is social media and then project management. But then the second day is lots and lots of slots that are about 50 minutes, where you have all sorts of different topics, some of which is practical. Vickie, I know you're back in London this year doing Mark II, tips and tricks. But if you contrast that with the fact that with Vickie being world-class in her field, our 3 really big speakers this year are the PA to the chairman at Google, the PA to Bill Gates, and then Nelson Mandela's PA. It's, it really is the best of the best. And I'm very proud that you two are part of that, because absolutely touring the world, you're 2 of the best.
Well, I love it because, first of all, thank you for including us on the roster and the platform with these amazing speakers. It's an incredible opportunity for us and experience. And the thing I like about it as well is that there are no breakouts, right? We're all in the same room all day long together. So it's great for the speakers as well to sit and listen to all of the other training and topics and expertise that's being delivered from the stage. And it's so inspiring. I sit there and take notes personally about what we're doing. Yeah.
Well, absolutely. And, my 18-year-old daughter, who was helping out the first year, said to me, oh, good, Microsoft, when you were about to go on stage, Vickie. And we got to the end of your session and she went, who knew? That was fabulous. And, that's somebody who was about as teenager-y as you could get.
Oh, yeah, I got to the teenagers. That's good.
Well, I love
what I'm saying. Accessible. All of it is accessible, which is, excellent.
Yeah. I just love that you, at the last one, how many different countries were represented in that room of 250?
Oh, my word. I can't remember, but I do know that this year's London is 20 so far, 20 different countries in London this year. Yeah, so it's a truly international conference, it's not just people from the UK.
And if any assistant out there is wanting to get out of their silo, that is one great way to do it.
They're all hugging each other on the pavement before they go home.
my gosh.
Now, Lucy, I know we're not going to share dates because we don't know when people are listening to the podcast, but what time of year do you have in what cities? So typically, is London always going to be March and so on?
London's always March, and then Dubai will always be November, and South Africa will always be in February. And later on, we're going to probably do Singapore as well, but you'll have to watch this space for that one.
Okay.
Very good. Oh, this is so exciting, Lucy. So moving on to the next question?
Yes.
Yes, and ladies, I just want to kind of look at the time because we want to honor everyone's time for our listeners, but I think we have time for the next maybe 2 more questions, and we may have to split this up into 2 episodes. Oh my God. So, because I still want to listen. We have so many questions for you, Lucy, but I don't want to.
Are you game? Are you game with us, Lucy?
I'm absolutely game. I don't think when we ladies get together we can stop talking. So as long as we're carrying them along with us, I'm quite happy to continue.
Well, our listeners are so fortunate to get the benefit of your brain because, Lucy, you are doing things that. There are resources available now that simply were not available 10 years ago and even 5 years ago, and it's just so exciting. So what do you see as the top burning problems in the profession? What do we have to solve? Because there's no better group of people to solve problems than assistants. So what are you seeing as you go around the world?
Oh, my word. Okay, I think the number one problem is going back to what we said in the beginning, which is the 162 different job titles. So it's a lack of clear career path and clear career progression, and then looking at the role as a profession off the back of that. Because I think having the 162 titles and nobody being quite sure what any of them means. So, for example, if you are a PA in London, a personal assistant in London, as I said earlier, that relates to being a bit like an administrative assistant in the States. You could be working on switchboard or you could be looking after the CEO. There's no distinction whatsoever. And goodness only knows what then happens if you're a PA and you want to transfer to the States. You've got PA on your CV, and if you walk into somewhere and say you're a PA, they may think that you're a celebrity assistant. Do you see what I'm saying? And then if you get these titles chucked in there like Chief Ninja, or, as you said, the Chief Executive Assistant, or business manager or chief of staff or whatever it happens to be, because quite often people businesses that don't want to give a pay rise will give an inflated title rather than give a pay rise because they think it makes people seem more important. Or they have this whole thing where they decide they're going to make a whole level of people this one job title, but it means nothing outside the businesses. So I don't know whether the listeners are aware or not, but this year, last year was International Year of the Secretary and Assistant. So I did a whole heap of traveling around the world and talking to assistants about their job descriptions and making sure that they were correct so that they could go for the remuneration that they needed, and looking at training and how they asked for training and looking at networking. And we did a load of work on that last year. This year is World Summit following up from that. And what that means is that every single association in the world is being invited to, of all places, Papua New Guinea, to sit round a table and talk about the state of the nation. And the number one thing on the agenda for that World Summit is career progression and how we narrow it down to maybe about 8 different titles so that we can say, make your way from this to this to this, and this is recognized right the way across the world, and what are the job descriptions that go behind that, and how can we then roll that out so it's just understood. And ideally the next step from that is to get qualifications that are recognized worldwide so that you can actually S. Lloyd, who I think you both know, but S. Lloyd is an extraordinary woman who is based in New Zealand and has done amazing things over there. She went to the government at, I think, 66 and persuaded them that they should put a degree for assistants in place, and you can take exams all the way through in being an assistant based on the stuff that she put together, and she now goes into companies and persuades them to put their assistants on secondment into finance and marketing and all those different areas so that they get proper experience. But she is at World Summit. I am there.
And me too.
You're there too.
I'm so excited to be a part of it as well.
I think it's just going to be an extraordinary event because I think we really have pulled together some of the real top leaders in the world for this one. to be on the committee to work out what he's talking about, and I know those discussions are going on at the moment. When we get there, I'm facilitating. Lloyd is chairing. I don't think we could have a better group of people to change the world this year. If it doesn't happen this year, goodness knows when it's going to. So that's number one, and I promise the others won't take so long. We're running out of time. The second one is stress and work overload, and I think that's partly, and bullying is in there too, which we'll probably talk about a little later, maybe in episode 2. But stress and workload. When you look at the middle management stuff we were talking about earlier, and the fact that most assistants have taken on 50% again more work before they start, and then of course businesses want to cut costs all the time, so they're giving assistants more and more managers to look after. And we're actually in the process of doing a piece of research at the moment with Avery, which is going to be really interesting. I can't wait to see what the results are. The first part of that is proving that assistants are more efficient than anybody else in the office. And the second, yes, and the second piece of research is around the fact that they are breaking all over the place. And why is that the case? And the idea is that by the time we get to the end of that, hopefully we'll be able to put strategies in place once we've proven those two things, to help the assistants go back to their businesses and say, whilst we want to help you, whilst we want to support you, whilst our job is to fix everything and we don't want to cause you problems, we are really near to breaking point and we need your support. Because, you know, I give talks on stress and on managing more than one manager all over the world. It's one of the things I keynote on. And I find that usually when I do that, at least a quarter of the audience is in tears. And that tells me something. It's awful to see it's 98% women, you know, and they just keep taking stuff on, and then their families are suffering and their health is suffering. No job's worth it. However much you love it.
And this is, the silence is killing us. There's so much silence shrouding these issues because there's so much fear. They fear losing their jobs. And that speaks to the idea that many assistants undervalue their worth. If they truly understood how valuable they are, they wouldn't be afraid to speak up and say, I need to take, Wednesday to go to my doctor's appointment. And the assistants must take better care of themselves. It's a complicated issue, but breaking the silence as we are, and as collectively and individually in the magazine and at live, it's vitally important for assistants to see others who are stepping up and saying what they need to stay healthy and strong, and therefore bring their best selves to the office, and everything's fine. They not only don't get fired, they end up getting promoted and more money.
Totally. And you know what, Bonnie? It's one of the things I say all the time when I'm talking to the assistants. Would you not agree that as an assistant, your role is to make your boss the best that they can possibly be for the company? Not for the boss, but for the company. You're employed and you are paid by the company to make sure that the person you are assisting is the best that they can possibly be. So therefore, if you are not as efficient as you might be, either because of stress and work overload, or, as we were talking about earlier, because of lack of training and self-belief and ability to ask for training, you are not making them the best that they can possibly be, and therefore you are not doing your job properly.
Right. And you know what? And you can almost start any request with that comment. So if I'm looking for training, or I'm wanting to, I have an idea on how to improve the workplace, I can start by saying, my job is to make you the best X, Y, and Z that you can possibly be. I want to give you more time in your day. Here's an idea I have. And then offer idea.
Threatened by that, right?
Right. If you start off with what is my objective here, what is my whole purpose here, is to support you to be, the best executive, to have more time in your day. If you start with that, how could they argue? Ladies, I'm I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but we are running out of time. But I would like the first question of the next episode, Lucy, for you to continue on this discussion to find out what makes you mad, because it sounds like this is a hot topic.
Absolutely.
And it makes me mad too.
I know. So I want to pause on this, unless there's any closing remarks you want to share, Lucy, and then we'll revisit this on the next episode. So let me do that. Let me give you closing remarks, as well as you, Bonnie.
Oh my goodness. I think all I would say to you guys is, out there listening, there is so much out there for you. You just have to find it, and the web makes all that possible. You don't have to be stuck in your silo. I really hope you'll listen to the next episode because I'm sure there will be plenty of other things to say. But in case you don't, go out there, find your heart's desire because it is there.
And Lucy, I love that because I want to tell you kind of what we want to share with the listeners for the next episode. I want to continue the discussion on what makes you mad. I want to talk about bullying. That seemed like a really big topic on this episode as well. I'd love to know, both Bonnie and I would love to hear about any trends or challenges from a technology standpoint that you're seeing worldwide. I want to know about the market for PAs internationally. I'd love to know if there's trends where PAs are moving from one country to another. That would be interesting to see. And then talk about CEOs and HR leaders and how they feel about the profession. And I'm sure Bonnie has some questions, and we might have some questions for listeners. Bonnie, are there any concluding remarks before you share your top tip for this episode?
I just want to thank Lucy so much, and I'm sure our listeners are completely understanding now why we so wanted her to be our guest for this topic on global trends. So my top tip for this episode is to read Executive Secretary magazine. Subscribe to it. It's one of the best publications out there for this profession. Vickie, your top tip?
My top tip is to get on board with the LinkedIn and Twitter groups that Lucy has. So we'll be sure to include the link to Lucy's LinkedIn group. Or Lucy, what is the name of the group if they do a search right now for the LinkedIn group?
It is just Executive Secretary magazine, so nice and easy.
Okay, perfect. So go to the groups area on LinkedIn and search for Executive Secretary Magazine and look for admin chat on the hashtag admin chat on Twitter. If you don't have a Twitter account, you can email. What email address do you want them to email for a transcript of any weekly topics, Lucy?
Okay, so if they email info@executivesecretary.com.
Perfect. Okay, info@executivesecretary.com, and you can request the admin chat transcript for that week. So, Bonnie, do you want to share I guess we know what our next episode is going to be.
I think we should wrap up, and we want to thank you all for listening, and you definitely want to tune into the next episode.
Perfect.
Thanks for being here, guys.
Do you have a closing quote for us, Bonnie?
Yes. Jim Rohn's quote is hitting me today. It goes, "We all have two choices. We can make a living or we can design a life." And that's what I want to leave you with.
Oh, I love that. Design a life. I like that. Well, thank you, Bonnie, and thank you again, Lucy. That concludes today's episode. We'd love your feedback, topic ideas, and questions. Visit the podcast page at betheultimateassistant.com. Thank you once again for listening. We'll see you next time. Bye, Bonnie.
Bye, Vickie. And bye,
Lucy.
Bye, ladies. Next time.